welcome back, man. It's Niyi Sobo. I'm really excited that you're here. If you're here, it's because you're looking to dominate at the highest level, looking to really get the most out of your sport and be the best. And there's nothing wrong with that, all right? And a lot of people will have you believe that. The reality is most people don't even have the courage to admit that they want to be the best. So the fact that you have that courage, the fact that you're in the pursuit of greatness separates you from a lot of people already, all right? Now, that's not all it's gonna take to climb the top of that mountain, if you will, but that's a big step. So salute to you. And that's what we're in the business of dealing with here on this channel. So I'm glad that you're here. All right. So listen, the off season is very important. Obviously, you got times where you're in season and you're locked in. I played football. So football during the season is a very, very intense time. Your body's going through a ton of shit. You still got to lift, still got to run, still got to stretch, take care of yourself. And of course, the pressures of watching film week to week, every single week is really, really intense as a football player. So regardless of the sport, you all have an off season. And a lot of people approach off seasons as if it's the break, right? Like the way kids approach summer break. It's like, oh, no school. Now we got the off season. And some athletes work really hard during the off season and kind of hope to be in the best shape once the season starts back up. And then there's the small percentage who approach the off season in an entirely different way. And they approach their sport in an entirely different way. And I want to show you how you can structure your off season so that you can stay motivated and locked in during that time. Because a lot of people deal with lapses in motivation and they find themselves not really prepared as they could be once it comes time for the season to start. Once the season starts, and again, I'm speaking from a football standpoint, really any sport. Once the season starts, if you're not prepared, let's just say you're going to have a hard time getting prepared by the time you're already up under it, if that makes sense. So by the time the season starts, it's too late to be getting in great shape. It's too late to be getting yourself to the point where, you're going to position yourself for a championship. And I know we see a lot in the NBA. We see certain superstars, quote unquote, who, show up not in the best of shape, etc. And there have been some, I guess, exceptions to that rule. There have been some athletes who can get away with that. But let's be real. Let's look at the ones who really dominate, which is who we're trying to model ourselves after, right? LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. And again, I know there's some exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, those who are dominating at the highest level, they're showing up ready. They're not out of shape. They're ready to go. I don't know if you remember several years back, there was a lockout in the NBA. I can't remember how far back that was. But you saw a lot of athletes not really ready once it came time to start balling again. And you don't want that to be you, all right? So I want to break down how to stay motivated and locked in during the offseason. So let's go through piece by piece what you need to do, all right? First things first is you got to have a vision of perfection. And what that means is understand your sport and what you're trying to accomplish in your sport. Make sure you have a vision of perfection for what type of athlete that you want to be ultimately when it's all said and done. And you might be wondering, what does this have to do with the offseason? It has everything to do with the offseason, because if you have that vision of perfection, you now have what we call perspective. And when you want something great, everything matters to get there, right? So the problem is with a lot of athletes is they don't really have these lofty or ambitious or challenging goals that they want to reach. So who would want to be excited about getting up at 5 a.m. in January after a grueling NFL season? Not many people are going to want to do that. Most people are just going to want to rest, chill. Who's going to have that sense of urgency to do all of those little things to rehabilitate from injury when you don't have something lofty and exciting that you want to accomplish? All right, so make sure you have a vision of perfection. This is super important, and you'll hear me talk about this a lot. Really, before you want to do anything is making sure, if you want to be an I'm not you type athlete, make sure you have a vision of perfection for what it is that you want to accomplish once it's all said and done. All right, now again, most people are scared to do this. You can't do that. So make sure it's written down, make sure you're able to articulate it, and make sure when you say it, it feels right to you. The other thing is this. So what you want to do is break up each season into phases, all right? And to neglect any phase will inevitably mess up the whole, all right? It's kind of like when you're baking bread or making anything. I love to cook. I love to bake, right? So if you fuck up any phase within the process of what it takes to bake a perfect loaf of bread, you will inevitably affect the next phase. All right. Your entire year from the end of the season to the beginning of the next is a complete 6-course meal. Make each piece a masterpiece. All right. So break up that season into phases. Now, what phases they are is really up to you to decide. And of course, it depends on your sport. So, for example, in football, we always had winter conditioning in college, right? And that was designed to build strength, build muscle, get us in peak peak physical condition. Then, of course, we had the spring football phase. Summertime was really a time to, of course, continue to stay in shape. Some athletes approached it more as a time to recover and rest before the new season started. For me, I always found it as another sort of phase, if you will, to get in peak condition, because when I found when I took too many days off in the summertime or I didn't go intense enough, it affected how prepared I was for fall camp. All right. So again, which phases, you ultimately need to figure that out, but break up your entire year into phases, and you should always know which phase that you're in. And of course, make sure it's documented. This is very important, which leads me to the next piece. Document everything. All right. You want everything written down. All your training should be written down, easy to track and easy for you to keep accountable. It blows me away how we as athletes think that we can just randomly go through something really, really intense, really, really in depth without tracking and writing shit down. Have you ever watched football and you seen the coaches on the sideline? You see those big ass sheets of paper that they have with everything written down? There's a lot of things to remember. Why would you try to go off the top of the head? You see your favorite quarterback has a thing on their arm. They're looking at the plays. It's written down. It's organized. So your training needs to be organized. And it really doesn't matter how young or old you are. Whatever you're looking to do at a very high level should be documented. It should be written down. You should have journals. It should be typed up, Google Docs, all of that shit laid out so you can review it and, of course, know when you're following through, when you're not. All right. The other thing that's really crucial if you want to stay motivated and locked in during the off season is make sure you take rest just as seriously as anything else. Chances are, if you are the athlete who's watching this, you're trying to get better, you're trying to dominate, you probably already work hard, you probably already train hard, right? And the problem comes when you think it's all about training and rest is a waste of time. That is very foolish. No days off. The idea of no days off is really a mentality. It's not to be taken literally. You do need days off. Now, how many days off depends on who you are, what sports you play, how old you are, what injuries you have, etc. And I'm not going to tell you specifically, but that's up to you to figure out. But take your rest and your recovery just as seriously as anything else that you take seriously. All right. Very, very important. And again, if you want to be elite, that's what it's about. It's about pacing yourself. It's a marathon, not always a sprint. The other thing that you want to do in order to stay motivated and really locked in during the off season and really during any time is to create an accountability alliance. All right. This means a partnership with someone else, either a coach, either a fellow teammate, someone whose job it is to keep you accountable. Now, this works best when it's with a peer and you both have equal skin in the game and you can exchange that accountability. All right. Meaning you guys say this is what the goals are. This is what phase I'm in as it relates to the season. And this is what needs to be done. And ideally, you want to meet every single week. It should be on the clock every single week. Creating the accountability alliance is going to keep you accountable, add that positive peer pressure to make sure that you're actually going to follow through, and is going to help you stay locked in and engaged during all parts of the season. And I don't necessarily mean just feeling motivated and all excited. Sometimes locked in means you're just doing shit at a high level, even though you're not feeling good, even though you don't want to. I could remember vividly those early morning winter workouts in college when I played at Portland State. And those were not fun, but I was locked in because there was that accountability. There was high pressure involved with it. And of course, we had that laid out for us in terms of what phase that we're in. All right. So listen, if you do these things, I promise you, you'll have an incredible off season. If you create the habit of approaching each season in this way, where it's simply every single piece of the season is really, really important. Much like when you go to a great restaurant, every single piece of that meal is super important. They're not going to bring you out a world-class pasta with some dry-ass Wonder Bread. You see what I'm saying? Every single piece of it has got to be high quality. Every single piece of it has to be paid. There has to be a lot of attention paid to the details, and it's super important. All right. So listen, a lot of these things you're not going to be able to do on your own. And if you can, it's not going to be done at necessarily a high level, and you're going to be trying to figure out how to document all these things. I'm in the business of teaching athletes how to really dominate at a high level and how to be the real CEO of their career. So if you want more help with this, all the way down from crafting out your training routines, learning how to evaluate yourself properly, how to do proper mental conditioning, how to condition yourself from a mental standpoint, I want you to go to imnotyou.com/KI or click the link below in the description of this video and learn more about how to take your mental game to the next level and just become the true CEO of your career. All right. So again, stay locked in, man. Take this shit seriously. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.